Are you concerned about all this corruption being misgendered as conspiracies? Well, don't you worry. Sit back, relax, and join in the conversation as we talk with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
Hello and welcome to the channel. It's me, Chris Brooks, for another explosive documentary. Today we are joined with the lovely Neelu Chowdhury, who is going to explain. First, she's going to give us a little bit of background of who she is, and then she's going to talk to us about how deep the corruption goes with financial, cloning, you name it. This lady has got the info. So we're just going to jump straight in so I don't have to keep waffling on. Welcome to the channel, Neelu.
Thank you, Chris, and it's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to basically give some good news for a change. I was a qualified pharmacist, and I witnessed a horrific crime against my baby niece in an NHS hospital under the care of social services with a protection order and a police arrest warrant against me. I was horrified what they did to my baby niece. She was denied oxygen, she was overdosed, and she died in a terrible way, isolated in a cubicle. And then it was the horror of what they did to her body after death. And then I exposed the organ scandal, the Shipman murders, the Bristol babies. And I shut the maternity department, I shut the court, I shut the police station. And they came after me. I was made homeless twice, and I've had so many false prosecutions where I've caught the police perjuring. And the same police stole my house. The same police are after stealing my late sister's house. And so it goes on, and here I am, the baby's body still in a freezer in a mortuary in India. She's I'm a petitioner in the High Court, and and this 18th Law Commission of India report 206 is about investigating suspicious deaths of Indians abroad, which when India has enough prosperity, enough money, they will be able to investigate her death properly, why the police covered up, the coroner covered up, and all these things. My late sister and I, we dropped the death rate in the NHS by 30 to 60% because of our campaigning. So then I got involved with the financial system, and how I understand now that the United Nations was set up to generate money by birth, and that 70-year expiry on the 17th of August 2015 changed the way of creating the money because of the abuse and the annihilation of humanity over the last 600 years. I can go back first-hand knowledge of my family and royal family. We were royal, 300 years of judges, and British gun control took control of the Indian judiciary in 1966, which is when my dad fled because all his colleagues were being shot dead. He was a judge. 10 other judges came with him. So I know exactly how the system has compromised our judiciary, our governments, and it's the bankers, it's the financial system, it's the fiat system that was hijacked from the UN, and Phil Schneider talks about the 1975 resignation of all UN delegates in the underground base because this upright reptilian walked on the stage 9 foot tall with a tail, crocodiles kind of things, and that's why he was murdered in 1996 for telling us all this. And he said that he'd seen our human DNA totally mixed with other animals off planet, and so that's too late for us to do anything about. This galactic war will go on in the next 5,200 years, but we're in the golden age now since 21st of December 2012, when they sent that missile into the gold medalist, but the angels said we were going to be there and we were going to protect humanity, and they put that in a warehouse in Dagenham. That was a fire that went on for 2 weeks. 200 firemen couldn't put it out. That's how bad they were going to blow up Stratford, London Stratford. arena. So that's all. I can give you all the links for that to put on this. I'm not.
Yeah, well, any links you've got, I will put in the video description.
Yeah. So, okay, it's good news. We're here. We're still here. We're amazing to be here right now.
Yeah.
And then, the digitalization of our birth trust funds. Well, it's in the billions. We can trace it through, expertinalllegalmatters.com. Steve McRae has done a brilliant research into that. We've got so many brilliant talents out there. We've got Chris Coverdale about community cooperatives and how to bring people, into withholding taxes and then taking control of the local councils on grounds that they've been participating without our knowledge and consent, with our money, hard-earned toils, with wars. And then we've got an amazing guy called Anthony Stansfeld, police crime commissioner, and these are all on my YouTube channel. They're on the playlist when I've interviewed them regarding the banking frauds of 200 billion a year is being laundered of our money, spent on wars, even though the Lloyd's bankers were jailed for 49 years in 2017, that amount has not gone down. So that proves that the criminal justice system is shattered, useless. And that's why they can go and pick on whistleblowers like Julian Assange and lock them up. And nothing is done about it. So we're basically in a state which has no remedy for individuals who are victims of state, who should be protected by a democracy if it is a democracy. So we're not in a democracy because our whistleblowers are being targeted. And so this is where the external influences are coming, whereby our data has been sold to the highest bidders. So Neelu Berry is not allowed to live peacefully in her own home. They'd rather pay double for me to rent a room than to live in my late sister's home and my own home, to terrorize me, hoping that I will drop dead. And I was shocked to see, the Danny Beach story. It's very similar to the John Hoth story, where these police have gone in and stolen farms. So you've got Surrey police, Sussex police. And in John Hoth's case, they stole his firearms and gave them to a serial criminal who had been in jail for most of his life. And he was, the threat to people like us who'd been robbed of our homes. So I was terrified. I know lots of people gave him money to. Sorry.
I can imagine you were terrified.
Yeah. So London is the kind of the central where terrorism in London is a lot worse than anywhere else. But they do it in London first. If they get away with it, then they go outside and do it. And it's really shocking what they're getting away with, the police. So
are you talking about the City of London? Because the City of London is pretty much deemed like its own country, isn't it? You've got the outer London, and then you've got the City of London, where all the bankers and all the elites do their shady business. And that's a bit like in America, where they've got Washington DC, which is almost deemed like its own little country. It doesn't operate the same as the rest of the country. Is that right, or am I talking hogwash?
No, that's absolutely correct. Actually, okay. There's a video, 5-hour video called Empire of the City. I'll think of it in a minute. Ring of Power, Empire of the City or something. Okay. And it's about 12 years old. And she says that the Washington DC, the City of London and the Vatican, there's a triangle.
Yep.
So I think the Vatican, the satanic elements in the Vatican, which I'm hoping because of the work of Kevin Annett, that's now been dissipated and been replaced by good cardinals. Apparently the cardinals were against him. It's like we've had with Julian Assange recently. We've had, people saying Mike Pompeo threatened to kill him and kidnap him. And now everybody in the CIA hate him. They don't align with him. And so there's this kind of seeds and chaff kind of separating out everywhere. So it's all good news because we didn't give up. We're still here, and they obviously now they're having to admit that they're not bad guys in there. They've been sidestepped. But the Washington DC was the war machine, she says. This lady, I think her name is Julie, Ring of Power, Empire of the City, yeah. And the City of London was the financial capital of the world, and the Vatican obviously was controlling both of them, I think, was above them. So we've been basically been ruled by bad elements. This is why all intentions are to finish us quickly, by any means, at any cost. But what I was saying about the police was that the City of London police will come out and go anywhere in the country, because I believe Wilfred Wong, who spoke out about child abuse, he was, chased down the motorway and put in prison for rescuing a little boy by the City of London police. City of London police, I think Anthony Stansfeld mentions them doing lots of stuff around England with the bank, for the banks. And they should be doing good things, but they're not. They're still carrying on this show of power and slave mastery, to attack, to persecute, identify, persecute, and destroy all whistleblowers. That's the bottom line, I'm afraid.
No, well, yeah, that's certainly what certainly looks like what's going on. But my goodness, what a strange world we live in.
Well, how amazing are we to be here right now? How amazing, despite the odds, despite all the, England is such a hostile climate. We should be traveling and going on holidays all the time. We don't never, ever need it to work. They suppress the technologies to make us think that we need petrol in our cars. We got anti-gravity. They got anti-gravity for decades now. So there's so much.
I was talking to another farmer in Scotland, George Smith, and yeah, he said that he's had contact with beings and he's seen anti-gravity machines, and he was actually working on a hydrogen engine, doing shed work. I think that's the terminology that he used. And a lot of Freemasons were involved in trying to take his land and stuff. So there's lots of synchronicities that I'm getting through my channel here.
Yeah, and there are underground bases in England.
Mm-hmm.
About, I don't know, 7 or 9, and those areas are very, very, very active in things. So I won't say much about this needlepoint thing that we've been talking about for 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of one of them experiments, and I really didn't want to say it, but I'm going to have to say it, is that being a pharmacist, I see things a little bit more, and coming from a family of judges of 300 years, I see things in a courtroom that people don't see. So because of these hybrids, human hybrids being sick out there, they can't make antibodies, only we can. So when they do the test, it's the DNA test, and then depending on our DNA, then they get the antibodies generated in the body. Then they preserve the body, because that's how they're going to get their antibodies for up there. That's the bottom line. Knowing what I know, that's what I see, and that's what it's about. Because they have no purpose for us now, because they can clone us, but what they're missing is the free will, the God's laws of free will, the divinity in us. We're God's children.
Mm-hmm.
And we procreate, we reincarnate. All the people who are here right now, they've all reincarnated because of previous injustices done to them. That's God's ways, and we're here to fix it, and we will fix it. Because I know a few of my previous lifestyles, my lifetimes, and I know what was done to me is exactly what's being done to me now, but I'm in a better place now than I was previously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's good news. It's really good news. So we managed to get stronger each birth. We get stronger and stronger. And now we're the toughest we've ever been. And now we're ready for the golden age. And now we're going to lead the
I hope
rest
so,
of the
because
world.
I can't imagine coming reincarnating back into this world.
Well, now you're perfected now. You don't
Oh,
need to. You see, once you're perfected, you're God. You're actually God. That's the way it
mind
happens.
blowing.
How it happens. You don't need to.
So this whole, so we've all got, where did you say we've got all this endless money, like billions? Where does that come from?
Yeah, good question. So when the money was generated by our birth certificate into the central banks,
Mm-hmm.
the governments should have told us, but they didn't, that was to keep us in peace and prosperity. So around the time when they killed John F. Kennedy, because John F. Kennedy signed this Green-Hilton Agreement with the founding president of the United Nations, I.R. Sukarno, to stop the usury. So that speech by John F. Kennedy was, he could see this was going to go terrible. They'd spent all this money on the underground bases by then, the 1954 Greada Treaty. He knew what they were doing about the secrecy. The secrecy is the big crime that's been committed against us. And he wanted to stop it. So that Green-Hilton Agreement, I can send you can look it up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So the signatures are there. He was shot, John F. Kennedy was shot dead 8 days later. But his signature still stands, you see. They could not have denied that to us, but they did. So the point is, whoever shot John F. Kennedy had the intention to deny us our peace and prosperity of the UN. So the UN basically will compromise under gunpoint of the Americans because they'd signed the Greada Treaty. America had signed it. When Russia found out, they pulled out. So this whole thing again repeated. So the G8 2013, there was like a reset of this birth to breath money. So just to answer your question, so when they kept taking say doctors and educated royals from all the native royals came to England to pretend to educate, but they were all nightclubs and they just all go downhill. So those birth trust funds in those central accounts of the native lands were then stolen by the leaders. And then when you come to England, you've got £4 in your pocket. My dad was not allowed to bring more than £4 with his family of 6. So he had to work for 2 years, send us the money to come on a plane when I was 9 with my 3 siblings. So you're a slave. When you come to England as a professional or a judge, you're a slave. And you have to do nights. He had to do menial work. He was the second most intelligent man in England. He had a test on and he just had to do menial work. He was working for the post office in the SEDO. So we had a post office as well, and we had an armed robbery in our home. So, in 1983, and they don't want the post offices to stay open. The banks want them out. So they've done all this framing of this, the post office owners to shut them down. They've shut them all down. They put my brother under gunpoint back then, 20 years ago. And a lot of the small post offices shut down. So I've forgotten the question now. I've digressed so much.
All right. Well, my initial question was just where does all this money come from? And you've kind of answered that anyway.
Okay, so yeah, what they did, they've been securitizing this money, our money. So whenever you mention your national insurance number or your birth certificate number,
Your government's Swiss bank account.
So for example, when they make you think you're taking out a loan, they've actually accessed your birth trust funds and stolen that loan amount money out of it.
Yeah.
And they're making you pay interest on it. They've securitized it. So we say, thank you very much for secretly securitizing my money. Now I know I want it all back.
That's why they call it repayments. You've already paid it.
Well, so firstly, we can dissolve everybody who's accessed our birth trust funds and secretly securitized our money without our knowledge and consent, and dissolve them for criminal activity and treat all their assets as proceeds of crimes, like the councils, because they've been collecting taxes for war crimes. So we don't consent to that. And so really we should be, I need accountants and liquidators international liquidators to do this. Honestly, I'm now working as a volunteer for the son of I.R. Sukarno, His Majesty Sugihartono Tonegoro in Indonesia, because he's been trying to give this $1 quintillion since the G8 2013. And
how much is that?
18 zeros. So a billion. No, yeah, I think. No, million is 6, billion is 9. Yeah, 2 lots of 9s, a billion. which is gold backed, and there's 78 billion kilograms of precious metals and stones, and these are under the 17,000 islands of Indonesia and the caves. So that gold is real, and this is protected gold. There's the International Paramilitary of Indonesia that protects it and would distribute it. So we're really knocking at the door of the ICC and ICJ to mandate and enforce via the provost marshals of all the countries these prosperity amounts, so payments 1 to 11. So your debts are forgiven, you get monthly amounts, you get the youth amount to set yourself up with your car, home and trade, and unlimited amounts for infrastructures. We buy out all the patents, we buy out the entire global wealth, which is 450 trillion, which is 2,000-fold less than in gold. So even the fiat is only 1 of 2,000 of the gold. And that's unbelievable how they've shrunk our economy.
Is this what might be sidestepping a little bit, but is this how, like, or why Colonel Gaddafi was demonized? Because he was so good to his citizens, even though that's a state word, and I don't like to use that because I've been learning all about legalese terms, but that's how he managed to give his people a house. He would give them something like £50,000 when they got married. There was no electric or gas bills or anything like that. Is that how it was all done?
Exactly. That is how it was meant to be for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But the media, as we know, has demonized all the good efforts around the world. So China actually honored the transfers that Mr. Sino made. Russia honored it. But at the G8 2013, when the announcements were supposed to be made, the leaders that were present there were blackmailed by the banks to say, if you make these announcements, you will lose your jobs. So this is Cameron, Trudeau, Merkel.
All the people who were in the WEF's young leaders.
Obama was there. So they know, the leaders know, that Pentagon had urged Swiss Indo release. So, but now in 2021, Swiss Indo merged with the United Nations, and Secretary General is working with Mr. Sino regarding this prosperity distribution plan. We have had like attempts to launch it every year. So there was a big launch in 2016. There was announcement made last year by Andy Kasman with me and on a Zoom, and we're expecting to have one very soon in this year. The IBM is a company owned and under the authority of Mr. Sino, so is IRS. So are all the banks. So Mr. Sino has the authority, but the enforcement by the ICC and ICJ is lacking because the judiciary has been compromised for a long time, for several decades. That's the problem. That's what's missing, is that the focus of the judiciary is being dictated by gunpoint.
It's so incredible, isn't it? It's, for just a normal person like me or somebody listening, it's just wow. I'm almost lost for words, really.
No, but it's all great news, isn't it? Like if IBM is under Mr. Sino and IBM say so. Okay, so what I want to explain to people is that we've been electronized, digitalized
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, since 2008 crash. And
Is that what the crash was all about then?
oh yeah, it was
Okay.
about bankrupting England, bankrupting all the countries, and stealing our privacy data, and getting rid of us as quickly as possible. And that's been going on for a long time. And so I've forgotten the point I was trying to make. I'll go off, and then I've forgotten what was the question. We are very, very in a good place. Why was I saying that? I can't remember.
I was just saying I was lost for words at the corruption and how for normal people like myself and people who are watching it, it's just unbelievable.
Oh yeah, the IBM link. Sorry.
That's
So the
right.
IBM basically stole our data, and Mr. Sina happens to be. So there's a link I'm going to put on about IBM. As so apparently I found out about the IRS is a database of everybody, all the countries. And IBM was, they use a software which is very old and ancient, but IBM updated that software. So Mr. Sino has the authority above IRS and IBM. So his payments 1 to 11 could be put as a software and hardware program into IBM, and we wouldn't even know. Money would just arrive in our banks. All the money we paid in usury and taxes will suddenly appear in our bank accounts from, backdated to a date when Mr. Sino had authorized, the Pentagon had authorized, and the leaders defaulted. So it was a crime biggest crime against humanity, but an invisible crime. Not making announcements was an invisible crime. So that was a most serious crime to rob us, and we can undo all of that robbery, backdated just with the software. It's really, really simple. And the other thing I wanted to say was that's why now there's no point in going to court, because all the courts are compromised.
Oh, bar guilds.
Also, judiciary.uk is the official list of official resident judges of the official courts in England, and you'll find these various courts are missing. So the court that stole my home and my late sister's home, Romford County Court, is not on the list. Clerkenwell and Shoreditch Court, Westminster Magistrates Court, Willesden Magistrates Court, and Central London County Court are not there. So these are privately hired. They don't have a resident judge. You'll notice that the official lists now have no county courts. They have no magistrates court because they're called combined courts, and they have a resident judge. So if your court that you get your whatever summons is a magistrate court or a county court, it is fraudulently trading, just like the bankers were jailed. They need to be jailed for that, because the councils own the courts and they own the police. That's how they did it. They hijacked the corridors of the magistrates court to do these liability orders, and the magistrates are told basically, you're a millionaire, multimillionaire, you can sit here, you can stamp these for us, and we'll give you, the title of magistrates. And they just think that they're honorable people, but they don't realize what they're actually doing is a crime, because the council hire the buildings, they hire these magistrates. Or I don't know how they're supposed to be volunteers, they're not supposed to be paid. But anyway, that's the end. We know now what they've done, and it's all about our privacy data. So if, say, I notice you dealing with DVLA, anyone gets a DVLA point, you say, if you go to ico.org.uk and you type in DVLA, they've been done for breaching privacy data, which when they, give your home address to any these criminals, they get £4 or something, but they breached your privacy data and you fine them for £5,000. That's how it works. For each breach, for any telephone, email communication, any communication you get. And I wanted to share a couple of links with you with the there is a privacy-regulation.eu website that shows you all the breaches of the GDPR 2016-679 and the Data Protection Act 2018, all the breaches. So, for example, say the Motor Insurance Bureau's got some things on there that's made your insurance go up. You just use, I think it's Article 15, the right to be forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
You write to them, say, look, I want you to erase all the data. And they'll say to you, oh, you have to contact each insurance company separately. So that's the point I've got to. And then you do that. So there's backdoor ways of fixing these problems. And we just say to these criminals, thank you very much. You know, we're going to do this to you. OK, you want £30 parking fine, or we want £5,000 breach of privacy from the DVLA. And this, you know, we've got to turn the tables around. We've got to be the judge. We're not going to defend ourselves to criminals. We're not going to engage with criminals. So that's like I've had so many false prosecutions, and that's what I do. I say, well, I've been falsely prosecuted, so and so had to perjure to do that. So get them for perjury, because that's a more serious crime than you're alleging against me, which is standing outside a church.
Blimey. So can you actually see your people getting money back from the DVLA, or do you see it more of you're proving a point and then they write off anything that they've thrown at you? Is there a point where you can actually get wealth from these people who have effectively taken it from you?
The subject that was before law, it was called logic. And the subject of logic is that if I have got a remedy for everybody, I need to not understand everybody's problems all the way back to the beginning of these problems. So in order to get to the end point, which is I call bullseye, then we need to dissolve all criminal activities and fraudulent traders, and we need to put them in jail. But because it's a computer software, and these people who run these companies are, they're living, we don't know where they live, because they give these addresses, a company address, a company's house. But there's a new law that's come out now, and I'm going to find that link and give it to you, which is company accountability. So now they're going to make the directors of the companies liable, so that, we'll find that all public bodies in England have been electronized, digitalized, and all of these directors and CEOs are all, we don't know where they actually live, and they now have to be, so you're not just dissolving a company, but you're seizing not just the assets of the company, but the personal assets of those directors. Okay. That law came out in 2022. It's about using, they've hidden a lot of laws that were there for us. For example, I noticed that in John Hoth's letter that they used the Criminal Law Act 1967, Section 4, makes silence a crime. And we cannot be persecuted like Julian Assange for witnessing a crime, because that then silence of that crime would be as guilty of, we'd be aiding and abetting in the proper investigation of that crime. So that law we use to shut down all these companies and their directors and seize their assets, the liquidation of all this criminal fraudulent trading. So DVLA is fraudulently trading, breaching our privacy. Land registry is doing exactly the same, breaching our privacy.
That's who I'm going to be tackling next, the land registry. After I've done the DVLA, yeah. I'll be doing the land registry.
Yeah, so I can help, I can unlock a case within a few minutes, because it's the same pattern, it's the same crimes, it's the same networks. The banks are not really interested in taking your house or your car or your child, but the dark elements want to bring in criminals from abroad, put them in stolen homes, give them stolen children as props to launder the money for fostering whilst they're doing other stuff. That's just the prop. That's just the pretense.
Is this what all the people coming over on boats are for?
I think so. I think a lot of criminals are in there, hidden in there, and so they have to bomb a country. They have to take over the lands to build the underground bases. Then they have to put the criminals in on the boats with these other people who are genuinely,
There aren't many women and children coming over, are there? They're all like men in between like late teens to in their 30s, all kind of fighting age, really.
Yeah, and I mean, you're probably right, absolutely right. I get you that they would find partners in England, have babies, and then go and move into these houses. But the database of this criminal, there is a lot of exchanges of criminals going on, and they get a backdoor entrance in any way. Like a lot of traffic wardens came from Africa back decades ago. They all seem to land here. And I think the church has been trafficking a lot of priests, like 9,000 priests were servicing about 10,000 orphanages in Kerala. They all had like 500 to 1,000 babies each. They were stealing those birth trust funds for the Vatican, these priests. They, and the God's laws don't permit children being born outside of a mother and a father. So mother serves, the father protects. So the infrastructures have to be very strict about procreation into, and the reincarnation thing into the families.
And I'm guessing this is also why LGBT is a big thing at the moment, because it's about the dismantling of the family unit, going against God's will, if you like, about it's sexualization of the children. It's endless, isn't it?
But I think we're coming to the last stages of it. I think those people who set all that up were supposed to finish us off by the Armageddon 21st of December 2012. And I think that what we now have are people who are stuck in that system that we really need to rehabilitate them. They have no idea. If you're tortured from birth,
that's what
you don't know any better, and then they give you a house, they'll give you money to, and you're like a what's the word, an actor for that thing, and you actually believe what you're doing is correct. But under God's laws, obviously, it's
sin.
It's an insult to God. Where God made 50% woman to serve and 50% man to protect. So the man would go out to fight and protect, and then the woman would look after the children. So that's where we're going back to the royal household, extended families, the women being women and men being men. I don't mind filling in for the men when they're away or when it's needed, but I do know my role in the kitchen, kind of thing.
Sorry, no, that's cool. So, and we don't have to keep this bit in. So your famous relative, he knows all this. He knows all about this.
Well, I keep him copied. So my nephew Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister, he was best boy at my wedding. He was 6 years old, and my ex-husband is his mother's brother, and he's just a normal kid, and he's very talented. I think he went to private school. He trained as a banker, and the king selected him to be the prime minister as the most suitable candidate who can fix this system. And I've been working with the Queen years before he was made prime minister. So I would write to the Queen to say, can you release so-and-so from prison, so-and-so, and they'd be released. They'd get released, but then somebody would go out and pull them back in. So there was something going on. And I understand how the royal family has been given a very bad name over the years, but they have very good intentions. and that they are the role model that we would be following in the future. The extended families.
As in our current royal family?
Yeah, any royal family, because they're the last, probably the last remaining example of how our future is going to be, as in, but they
I'm
were.
just a little bit concerned with regards to the connections to the fact that the amount of paedophiles that the royal family have knighted and had close in their remit.
No, but that's not their choice. That's the Vatican control of. Don't forget, the Vatican is above
The
the
royal
royal
family.
family, and that's where the controllers are in the Vatican.
So they're pushing it.
They've taken over the whole governments and the bankers and the poverty slavery system, the usury. It's all was I'd have to say was designed to end us all, but it didn't succeed, and we're 12 years on, so we're in a good place right now, and we can only go upwards from now. We're not going down. We don't need to worry about these what you call it, the vinyl record that's shut down and it's just slowly coming to a stop. We don't need to worry about that. But we are now taking flight, anti-gravity flight, and nothing's going to stop us.
When do you think things are going to start becoming more apparent to the public people?
Well, they put so much bad about Swiss Indo on Wikipedia. I tried to fix it, but they wouldn't let me. So Wikipedia is compromised. So the whole media and information out there is disinformation about Swiss Indo and what happened at the G8 2013. But I've got my website, which is https //unosim, that's unosim.webnode.co.uk, where you'll find all the documents of Swiss Indo. And these are signed by Mr. Sino, and he's serious about, he's got Russia on his side, he's got China on his side, and India will probably join in. I think the BRICS are behind Swiss Indo, and now the UN has joined up. So it could be done over 24 hours. And when people start to claim their secretly securitized billions, they will do it tomorrow. It just depends how many people move forwards with our position as a very strong position to go back in time and get all our money and money in our accounts. We start traveling and we go to better climates. We don't need to be, put in a cage
like cattle.
Yeah.
Basically, they've tried to tag us all like cattle over the last few years, and they
Exactly.
and I suppose that's where all these 20-minute neighborhoods, 15-minute cities, it's all just about keeping you in your little clusters of people whilst they have the rest of the world to roam around without us mere peasants.
Well, they want to see how much energy we'll put into something which is a pointless exercise, because we've got enough to dissolve the councils with. They don't have any power over us since 2015 at least, because fiat currency has no legitimacy. It's trading illegally. So any corporation after that is a criminal entity.
Oh, I'm glad I resigned from the council 2 days ago then.
But no, you might be suitable for running it now that we're going to, set up the community cooperatives, and the Swiss Indo money will come into your community cooperative according to how many people live there. The Swiss Indo 138.99 trillion country quota will be split depending on how much population is in your council. And then you select maybe 12, 24 people to be, volunteers to decide what you want to do in your community. Better than the council. Yeah, but you can hire those people that are good in there. That most of them will be good. It's just the top knobs you need to replace.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I have to say, there's a few on the council that, to me, just had bad energy. But for the most part, and I suppose it's the same in governments to an extent. Oh, I'm going to get shot down now. But a lot of people are there to do good, to see good, and they just get swallowed up by the beast system that not necessarily compromises them, like you say. It's done in a subconscious way, so they don't even realize what they're doing. It's compartmentalized. So you think you're doing it for one reason, when in fact it's a completely different reason, which has such horrendous knock-on effects for everybody else.
Yeah, and then this is how they will just come out of this coma that they're in. As soon as they see like a green light that we've hit bullseye, and they're just waiting for, I think the ICC and ICJ will cooperate. The provost marshals military are already, like the police military, are already good guys. And everyone's just waiting for a green light. And they're going to, they want to do the right thing. They know exactly what to do.
That's cool. What do you see happening with, or what is the point of organizations like the World Economic Forum and your Klaus Schwab?
Well, going back to, say, 1992, when you had the NHS health service was run by medical directors who were medically qualified. And then they had the CEOs when these councils were set up. So they put this layer on underneath through the back door. They were not professionals, but they were just horrible people. And since that time, they've done this to all the governments. They've slid in there and they've taken control. So all we've got to do is, do the community cooperatives all around the world, in all the governments, get the good people in charge of making the decisions, and just remove those backdoor imposters. And of course, the professional bodies, the regulators, they say, oh, if they're not a real doctor, they're not a member, well, we can't regulate them. We don't know who they are. We can't, so they've allowed imposters. That's part of the system, So DVLA will have one of these, and they will have their contacts with the bailiffs, the local networks, and they'll have these criminals coming over, and they'll have these talented children stolen because the schools are on the lookout for talent, and then they'll give them to these criminals. They'll say, prop yourself up in England because we need this, we need these evil.
What does that look like? What does that, so, because obviously I'm a parent of two children, 1 7, 1 11. My boy's very good at maths for his age. He's well advanced for his age. So what, as a parent, does one need to look out for? Are there any telltale signs to think, right, yeah, we need to be wary of that?
So they wouldn't touch you. I would imagine they won't touch you because they know that they're not going to succeed. So they will only pick on vulnerable parents or vulnerable situations. So what they'll do is they'll break up a family. They'll offer a home, to the women with the single mums will get a home. They separate the dad out, make him a criminal. Oh, he hit me. And then they will then take the children. That's a pattern that happens all the time.
Okay. So this is where the social services play a big part in this.
And the schools are in on it. And then they will, it's like how many, they had these targets, didn't they? Every month they got to take 1,000 children. Every month they have to take 1,000 homes. And every month they've got to bring 2,000 criminals from abroad and dress them all up and give them all this money. And, but I still think it's not happening. I'm hoping that we know what they've been doing. And once we know the pattern, the system, and then we know they have these fake courts, that they predetermine these, whatever, foster parents to have these children through the back door. There are a lot of children that will need rescuing. We are at the point now where we'll have to use the provost marshals and the military to rescue these children from this trafficking of children through the councils.
I've got two people who are very passionate about protecting their kids, and they often do outreaches in London and stuff. Jeff Mealing and Aaron Reeves, shout out to you too. Yeah, it's absolutely shocking what what is happening to children. So you must have heard of the white hats. What's your opinion on the white hats? These people behind the scenes saving us, like QAnon.
I believe there was a lot of, I would say, channelers that were doing a lot of channelings, and they kept, I was reading these channelings and they talked about the white hats, and it was almost like just wait and wait and wait and somebody else will do the fighting. Then I realized that no, I'm not going to read that somebody else is doing the fighting. I'm going to have to be participant in that. And I think there was a lot of people that made to do nothing by those reassurances that this will happen. And I think that's why we got delayed a lot. And so I think our focus and our energies are very important individually. And like you're very focused, I'm trying to be focused, but in tackling these problems. And it is very difficult because I'm actually been tortured by the council, denied benefits and made homeless and falsely prosecuted, and it takes a toll on you.
Oh, I should imagine.
I have a very serious neck injury from a car accident, which means my blood pressure shoots up because my neck is in the wrong place. So I'm restricted in what I should be able to do and what I do, very badly. I'm 64 now, and I've been going for 24 years, since 2000, since my baby niece's death. And obviously my professional body struck me off. So the National Midwifery Council, the General Medical Council, the Royal Pharmaceutical Society, and the General Pharmaceutical Council, they had 60 signatures of doctors, nurses, and pharmacists who overdosed my baby niece. They didn't want to deal with that they struck me off just to shut me up and gagged me. So this is what they do. When truth comes out, they target those people, the witnesses, when I should be a hero,
Yeah.
Same
as Julian Assange and people like that.
Yeah, exactly the same. I've been persecuted for a lot longer than him. And I just think that England is going to release him that now, because England is being shown for what it is through that case. He's an Australian citizen. There is no jurisdiction in England. There's no crime in England. There's no injured party in England. And England has spent millions on, and again, this is showing the American control of England judiciary. The fact that he was kidnapped from an embassy, that is a very serious crime. No judicial process there. In fact, if Ian Crane hadn't been there, there wouldn't be that footage. Ian Crane was there early in the morning that day. That was his footage that we got. They parked that van across and you couldn't see anything. And that was a kidnapping. That is a very serious international crime in May 2019. And obviously, this is a criminal cover-up. So the fact that Julian was too ill to attend this hearing in the High Court, they should have adjourned it, and they should have dealt with the counter charges of criminal cover-up of war crimes by the US and the UK. That's what they should. The International Criminal Court and International Court of Justice should have dealt with first. That's what I've been trying to do secretly behind the scenes, is campaigning with Mr. Sino to do that, to release Julian Assange that way through those courts. But they've got so much jargon about, for example, the ICC will only prosecute individuals if a state makes a complaint or something. I'm not quite sure, but the Rome Statute has to be breached and the country has to be signed up with the Rome Statute. But the Australian government now, because they've had a reshuffle, now they've got honourable people there. They've said, bring him back to Australia. So England can't hold him anymore because now the Australian government has been cleaned out. And so, America can't have any power over Julian Assange or anybody else in the world. And I think we're seeing the last breath of this monster, of this fiat currency, and then hopefully we'll release the gold of Swiss Indo.
So you don't ever see the CBDCs ever coming into play then?
Well, that's just like, the way that you're going to distribute something. You can call it crypto, you can call it anything you like, but the fact is it's gold backed. It doesn't inflate or deflate. It remains the same value. So anywhere in the world, in any country, you'll have the same buying power, the same standard of living, the same natural, share of natural resources. So you'd barter, if you've got cotton, you'd barter it with coffee or whatever, and you'd share it equally. And it can be wonderful how it's meant to be. So we don't need to worry about what we call this currency. I mean, it's actually called the ESTW, that's ESTWO, digital asset. So it's an asset rather than a currency. It's backed by gold.
Well, that's cool. That's interesting. So would you say, like, just going off on a bit, with like the climate change and this ridiculous net zero, is that all just a ruse to collapse us even more?
I think there's a lot of intelligence in what King Charles is doing. And they use these code words, so we don't actually appreciate what that means. Is that it's anti-gravity. To me, that means anti-gravity, no fuel, no petrol. We don't need that. We have, these mercury balls that spin around, and depending on where we want to go, they'll kind of shift you around. So
is this what we're seeing as UFOs, when in fact it's
they've been there for millions of years, so I've seen them as well. And they come in 3 lights. You see these 3 amber lights, and sometimes you'll see 6 lights, 8 lights, in multiples of 3s. I've seen 18 lights in the sky.
The only thing I've ever seen, started off as 1 light, and then 2 other lights came from it. So it was like a triangle, basically, and it just went.
Yeah, they do that, because we've seen one that's got a light, like a light, and it's gone like that to that, and then it's turned yellow. They can change their appearance into a metallic object, and then you get these yellow lights. So it's amazing. We do have help from up there, and they are working very hard. And they pulverized the underground bases in 2011. David Wilcock and Benjamin Fulford covered that, but obviously that gets removed from the internet. There's nothing there about that makes us feel good about what we've been doing. We've worked very hard, and the angels can only come and help us if we ask for it. They can't interfere unless the planet was going to be destroyed, which it was, because of these underground bases. They did pulverize Area 51. They did do that.
It's interesting to know. So what's your take on World War III? Is that likely to happen, or are we in it?
We're in it. We've been in it for a long time, since probably 1945, when they promised there was going to be peace. ICJ had a remit and a mandate to maintain peace. Obviously, people like Louis Mountbatten was doing his bedroom services with his wife, with Jinnah and Neelu, creating borders by blackmail. So the bedroom activities have created a lot of borders. And then forced conversions in northwest Punjab from Sikhs, Hindus, to Muslims, Christians, and Jews. They put the Jews in Israel. They put the Christians in all the governments around the world, the corporate structure. And these were all royals. My family, that's where they come from. And they converted the Muslims, stayed in Pakistan as Sunni Muslims. They were forced to eat meat. They were forced to and I have 4 wives. They didn't want to have, the original royals, they don't want to have more than one
One's
wife.
enough, blimey.
Yeah. So I'm in touch with my family because half my family converted to Islam and the other half came to India. But my great-great-granddad was Dr. Bhagwan Das. He was the foreign minister for Pakistan, for India in Pakistan. And he was promised by Louis Mountbatten that they were going to remain the same country. But he was stabbed in the back by Louis Mountbatten. And
Wasn't he a nonce?
Pardon?
Wasn't Lord? Am I getting confused with Lord Mountbatten to
Louis
Louis Mountbatten?
Mountbatten, yeah, Louis Mountbatten. He was a Satanist, known Satanist.
Yeah, and a bit of a child abuser as well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Apparently,
Okay.
he never did anything to his wife, but the other
Oh, good
two
on him.
did.
Oh, gosh. Oh,
That's
good
how they
people.
created borders, wasn't it? So they'd have the children through that and things like that. Yeah.
I could talk to you for hours, really. Just listen to what you've got to say.
Anytime you want, I'm here.
I reckon we should do another podcast. That would be
Sure.
amazing.
I can answer questions. I can deal with cases. I've helped Danny Beach with, doing a
Have you been in
data.
contact with him?
Yeah, I've helped him with 2 data subject access
Oh, brilliant.
requests, and he's already had good responses from that. So that's the thing to do. And I've got an old website that I can put the link in to download a template for that. So yeah, they shouldn't charge you for that. They can't charge you for that. They have to send it in hard copies or electronic downloadable file, however you want, or both if you want, just ask them. And it does, everyone who does you any harm, sends you a bill even, you don't know who they are. It's like my late sister's house has been stolen, but they're still sending out the bills 2 years on, That's what they do.
Yeah, relentless. Well, this is for my viewers. If anyone has any questions, leave them in the comment section. I'll compile a list of your questions, and then the next time we have Neelu on, then I will put those questions to her, where she would be more
Lovely.
than happy to answer them.
I
But
will.
I think I'm happy to call that a podcast this time round if you're happy, unless there's anything else that you want to mention.
No, I really want to thank you, Chris, for this amazing platform and for, asking questions and helping me to move forward on what my thinking was, because we are breaking like an arrowhead. We're breaking new ground right now. And I want everyone to be really positive about how far we've got. We have just got to tie a few loose ends regarding the data subject access requests and the techniques to use to do that. And these corporations, the corporate accountability is with the CEOs and directors now with this new law, and hopefully we can expand on that next time. I'll send you the links.
Okay, brilliant. And if there's any, like I say, any links that you've got that you want under this video description, I'm going to put this video out tomorrow night.
Sure.
So we've got 24 hours or a bit more than that probably. So yeah, but for now, I've had an amazing time listening to what you've had to say. I'm pretty sure my subscribers and watchers had an amazing time listening to it. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more content like this. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Chris.
you.
God bless you.
And you, all the
Thank you.
best. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye.